did coding workshop in the classroom, we gave them like a prescribed like list of instructions. Boys immediately wanted to change the art. How do I put in their own character? They wanted to put in memes. The girls were just like hammering through all of the instructions because they wanted to get it done. I've done design judging for the university formula team, and these grade 5 kids produce way cooler ideas because they're much better at like coming up with clear objectives, and they know exactly what they want to do to build this robot. Criminals have all the time in the world to do cybercrime. If cybercrime were a country, it'd be like the 3rd biggest GDP. It's like $6 trillion by 2025.
Welcome to the EdYoucation podcast, where we believe you have infinite potential and that learning is the key to achieving greatness. My name is Yan Katcharovski. I'm your host, and let's dive right in. Hi, everyone. Quick note. So excited to announce that we are releasing a brand new version of our school year digital learning management system. It looks absolutely beautiful. Looking at a grade 3 number sense lesson here. It comes with a video, printable lesson, worksheet, and a quiz. Awesome platform for both parents and teachers. We've been working extremely hard on releasing it. It would mean a lot to me for you to share your feedback. Link is in the description. Take a look, let me know, and enjoy the video. Hello, Mallory. Welcome to the EdYoucation podcast. How are you?
Good. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Our pleasure. Really glad to have you here. From your LinkedIn, your bio is that you are on a mission to inspire more women to pursue roles in science, technology, engineering, and math, entrepreneurship, and leadership. Tell me a little bit about yourself. What's your mission? Why women in STEM, and what's your background that have led you to be in this position?
Yeah, I have a pretty, convoluted path to getting into STEM. My family had a business growing up, so I was used to being around power sports and boats and business-related things. And so I worked there for several years. I didn't really know anything about technology at all, but I was kind of doing web development like on the side, but not really realizing that I was doing development work. I guess it just didn't click. So I went to school for marketing, and then while I was at school, I joined this race car team. They basically needed a bookkeeper, and because I was familiar with business and doing a budget, I signed on. And I met these really awesome engineers who got to work on STEM problems, like practical STEM problems, and I finally understood at that point why people go into engineering and technology. So on that team is where I really grew to love technology and STEM, and why I'm passionate about promoting it to young women, because it really was not something I had even considered until it was like way into my 20s. And yeah, so I started a company to produce games to get girls interested in STEM, Ripple Studios, and I've since created a second company to facilitate game-based learning to get more kids interested in STEM and learning in general.
Awesome. So yeah, let's start from your car racing experience. So it sounds like that was your first experience where you had realized that you're in this field of science and technology, right? You've said in the past you've done some work related to this, but you didn't really realize you were in it. Why is STEM important? Why is studying technology and science important? Like, not from a societal perspective, but from a personal perspective. Why did you find it interesting? Why did you find it empowering?
I think this is like a pretty multifaceted thing. I think that it wasn't until I got into it that I realized how important it is for society. So that's one of the things that I try to do when I talk to people about getting girls into STEM is, not always, but commonly, girls need to see the importance to society to consider a STEM career. And engineering is one of those things where like so much of the world depends on engineering and tech. So for me personally, I got into this because there's a lot of value financially, like this top paying jobs are STEM jobs. So it's important to get girls interested in them so that they can have financial independence. Like if I had gone and become a computer scientist at a school, I'm sure I would be doing very well right now. So that's really the conversation I want to have for young girls is like, think forward to the future and like think about salaries and your financial independence. And that's really important to STEM for me.
Absolutely. So what do you feel from your experience or your observation? What are some of the reasons that we're not seeing enough interest from women to get into STEM?
Yeah, so I actually wrote these down because I've done this like exercise for schools a lot of different times. The main problem, like the first main problem is like they're just commonly unaware. So I think that's been fixed, or people are trying to fix that by, having different career workshops and stuff like that in the schools. But really like the awareness is the piece that's first missing. And then after that, there's like societal beliefs and social beliefs that like those jobs just like aren't for girls kind of thing, which is super not true, because there's no reason why a woman can't become an engineer. And then really it's just like the belief that like computer science, those kind of jobs, those are like men's jobs, which historically they have been. So I think that's part of the problem, because role models is a big part of getting girls interested in STEM. They have to be able to see someone that they can see themselves in to try to be interested in those careers. And then I think in general, like STEM has a really bad branding problem, especially tech and engineering. They come across as like super geeky and dorky, but like honestly, I consider myself pretty nerdy because I love like web development and game development. And if this is what a geek looks like, so be it. But I think like as a kid, it's not as obvious that like these things, sure, like you have to solve interesting problems, and I guess that is geeky, but it's a big branding problem. Like tech is considered this like super geeky thing, which is, it's actually like incredibly cool. So
yeah, that's really interesting that you say that. So my background is in tech as well. I did an undergrad computer science. I'm doing a master's now in engineering, and I get to teach some classes. And the difference just in about 10 years, when I was an undergrad, the amount of women that were in the program and the type of girls that were getting to the program, first of all, there were very, very, very few. And yes, they often fit that stereotype that you're talking about of like they're very geeky, often antisocial, whatnot, which seems to be a branding problem, because today, when I'm in the classrooms, first of all, I think the percentage of girls in classes went up from probably sub 5%, maybe 1%. So now we're over 30, almost to 40%, which is amazing. And the personalities that I'm seeing are outgoing, fun, talkative, both boys and girls, which is so great to see. I feel like some of the great engineers of our world, from the Steve Jobs to the Bill Gateses to the Elon Musks, show that you can have a little bit of everything. Yeah, I hear you. So you had co-founded a company in the past that specialized in gamified learning, and I know it was also very focused on getting women into STEM through gamified learning. So do you feel like that's a good entrance because it's gamified and it's fun, or what's the purpose of gamified learning? Is it effective? What's the story behind that?
Yeah, I've had quite a bit of time to reflect on this, because for some reason as a kid, like my mom bought us a lot of educational games. And my fondest memories from my childhood from like learning are the gamified, like all the games that we did. Like I remember she had this like spelling game that I was obsessed with. So I think learning through games and fun and education, like fun and education do not need to be mutually exclusive. In fact, like the best way to learn things is to enjoy learning them. So gamified learning, by definition, is the best way to do it. I think where a lot of places, like a lot of things fail, is like the execution of that is actually pretty challenging, but learning through games is absolutely the best way to go.
Well, let's talk about that. Why is execution challenging? What makes it challenging?
Yeah, there's kind of like competing things here. Curriculum, you have to kind of build something to curriculum. And sometimes it's difficult because there's just stuff that's hard to make fun, I guess. So really with Ripple, we had it like my previous company, we did have some issues trying to take hardcore curriculum concepts and making them fun. But there was still a lot of stuff that we did that we were able to make fun. So we made like a workshop that taught kids game development, and we got them to design like a Frogger game. And they loved that because they created something that they could then play. So I don't know, the execution of games to make them educational is challenging.
So do you feel like, as somebody who ran that kind of company and created those kind of games, did you feel that you had the ability to solve for some of these issues that we talked about when it comes to women getting into STEM, like from the branding perspective or the content delivery perspective? Like, did you feel like you were able to solve some of those issues?
Yeah, one of the things that we tried, which I think we were successful at, is typically in games, like the kind of smart character, like I'm talking about games in general now. Like it's normally like the smart characters, like the guy or like the daring guy, the daring or the protagonist, antagonist. They're always men or guys. So what we did is we made our characters women or young girls, and I think that did help quite a bit, because when we put it in front of girls, they were excited to see someone that maybe looked like them. So I think in games especially, the easiest way to get interest among a different demographic is to show them.
And I suppose what makes games also an excellent use case is that you can create your own narrative, your own fiction, your own abstraction from society. So if there is a particular form of inequality in an industry, and you just look at the stats and you look at an industry, it'll paint you a certain picture. But in the world of games, anything's possible, right? Your imagination can run wild. I know you're a fan, and you were just talking about it. You're a big fan of teaching game design to kids. Why is teaching game design such a focus for you?
I think to start with, making games is incredibly fun. Even just the process of like designing the game, coming up with like the narrative and the mechanics and how it's going to look, that is just a fun exercise to run. The benefit for kids is that it combines like STEM applications. So they're doing coding, they're doing math, because coding is a lot of math. They're doing engineering principles. And if it's a science-based game, they're doing science. And then it combines it with like the super creative and artistic side of making games. So that's really why I like taking game design in the classroom, because they get to combine, like de-silo everything they're learning in school. Like there's not clear subjects in here. There's creative writing that's from English. They learn how to do art, like digital art in the art classroom. And then they have to do coding and math and technology. So it's a good combination of like real life as opposed to siloed curriculum.
Did you feel that as you were going through that with, let's say, a group of girls, did they enjoy playing the same games as boys, or were there a different kind of game that they like to play? Like, and why I'm asking this question is because personally, I feel like a lot of the games or AAA games or the big headlining games are catered towards what boys would have more traditionally enjoyed. Obviously, a lot of shooting, and guys were always the primary demographic in war and with soldiers, and a lot of sports, and the main sports on TV are obviously male sports. Did you feel like there was a separation there, or when you're dealing with little girls and boys, they have no clue, they're just having fun?
There were some differences I noticed when we went and we did like a coding workshop in the classroom. So we gave them like a prescribed like list of instructions on like how to code the movement of the character, put in the art, and the boys immediately wanted to change the art, almost immediately. They were like, how do I put in their own character? They want to put in memes and like all this stuff. And I was like, it's way more complicated than you think it is, because it's like the pixel size, the image, you got to just get the correct image. So that was immediately. The girls were just like hammering through all of the instructions because they wanted to get it done and have like a finished product as quickly as possible. So there were some interesting differences between the two.
It's really interesting that you say that. Actually, so Kevin O'Leary, right, like the TV personality, celebrity, investor, says that in his company investments, women-led companies significantly outperform the men-led companies, because men have this tendency to like hit home runs out of the park. Any task that they get, they're like, what's the craziest, most out of this world thing I can do? Meanwhile, the women entrepreneurs are a lot more realistic. They set goal, like maybe not as ambitious goals, but they accomplish them at a much higher rate. So it's interesting that you see that at that game design level and scale. And my experience has been very similar. Like I have such a great time. Like you always had a lot of female friends, and I had such a great time working with females in the fields of STEM, because it's like no nonsense. We get a task, let's get it done.
Get it done.
Yeah.
The other thing I'll say that was kind of fun is the girls were way more likely than the boys to get their peers up to speed. So if someone beside them was like falling behind, helping them like, no, put the semicolon there. And it was really cool.
It's great to see that some of the values, and traditionally, obviously, men have dominated these industries, but we've been missing some of these values, like compassion, right, or like teamwork in the industry. And I'm feeling it from the inside also, that these values are starting to surface. It's not just an idea. It's great to hear that it's happening on a level of children game design as well. So that was like that was your past life. That was your past company. Now you're doing something kind of the same but a little different. What are you doing now? What's your current company?
We're still building our prototype, but basically the idea is that we want to help teachers kind of do two things. We want to help them facilitate peer-to-peer instruction in the classroom. So we want to create a gamified learning platform where they can kind of facilitate a flipped classroom where the kids teach their friends. So that's what we're working on right now, and we're using AI for fun, basically, to do content generation to help the teachers expedite the type of content they're able to teach. So that's and then the second part of that is we are working on building out these low-tech workshops so that we can just give these resources to the teachers so that they're able to get up and running. Because what we found with Ripple is sometimes if they're trying to teach something where they don't have the necessary industry perspective, it's much harder for them. So we're going to try to front load some of that training to give teachers the ability to run workshops, even if they don't have the technical background to do so.
Also, from your work with teachers, what problems are you seeing that they're facing? What are some of the risks and issues that they're facing in their work day to day right now?
I mean, I've talked to quite a few teachers over the last couple of weeks. I think time is always like the main problem. So that's why they're always short on time. It's difficult for them to dramatically change their lesson plans because they have so much material to cover, especially science and math teachers. They have so much material to cover and they're, tested with the standards and English teachers as well. So time is of the essence. So giving teachers the ability to kind of just easily get up and running is kind of what we're focusing on for our company.
So you're finding that it's about solving the barrier to entry to some of these science and technology fields.
Yeah, because for example, I know we were talking about cybersecurity at some point. So I'm involved with a not-for-profit that's trying to get businesses and everybody up and running in cybersecurity because it's a huge problem. So one of the problems is that how can a teacher possibly know how to teach about cybersecurity when like most of the population doesn't understand cybersecurity? So that's one of the problems is like they need industry support to teach stuff that they don't know anything about.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. Well, speaking of cybersecurity, it's obviously such an ever-growing topic of importance where often a lot of elderly or very young people are at risk for clicking the wrong link, clicking the wrong attachment, going through the wrong website. What system or structures can we put in place that you've seen or that you've worked on to help alleviate some of these problems?
Yeah, there are quite a few companies trying to work on like training youth how to protect themselves online. It's a huge problem because like the criminals have all the time in the world to do cybercrime. So there's quite a few things that people can do to get up and running. But really, especially in like small business, they don't know to protect themselves until after they've been hit. So it's a really big problem. I don't think anyone has solved how to teach people how to protect themselves online yet.
Well, how do we start to teach kids about this?
I mean, they're the ones who are really on devices so early. So I think a good place to start is probably the parents, because probably the parents don't realize like there's some simple things you can do to protect yourselves online. Like the first thing is just don't have the same password for everything. But I know that a lot of people have the same password for everything. And setting up multi-factor authentication, a lot of people don't want to do that because it's like tedious to have to pull out your phone every time you log into stuff. But I don't know, teaching businesses and parents is a good starting point. Because the kids, they probably don't understand the gravity of the dangers that lie in the real world with cybersecurity.
Yeah, so it sounds like it's a matter of, again, knowledge and information and the barrier to entry to some of these difficult to understand conceptual things, like why two-factor authentication. I feel like if you don't understand what it's there for, it just sounds like a nuisance and an annoyance, right? But if you understand, or if you can really lower the level of explanation to, unless somebody has your phone and they receive this notification, nobody else can log into your account, right? As an example. But unless you go through the process of understanding it, again, it sounds like an annoyance. It sounds like something someone's making you do versus actually something you should want to do yourself.
I think that's the problem with like workforce development as well, when they're trying to train employees to be safer online. I think that's commonly the thing, like when a company sends like phishing test emails to like catch their employees, it has the same kind of sentiment. I think it's the same with the branding issues with STEM. Like there has to be some person has to come up with a good idea to change the branding. I'm not sure that that's me, but someone should do it.
Well, what are some steps you think we could start to take to change the branding for STEM, for example?
I mean, for STEM, there are people trying to do stuff. Showing role models is a good start for STEM, because until young girls see women that look like them, it's probably going to be a challenge. Cybersecurity, I'm still not sure. Like, cybersecurity is a huge problem. I read one stat that if cybersecurity or cybercrime were a country, it'd be like the third biggest GDP. So it's a huge problem. It's like $6 trillion by 2025 or something like that. So I don't know. I'm hoping that the governments and other folks are working on it.
So we're talking about how do we equip teachers with tools and kind of like an easy barrier to entry to starting to teach STEM where they are not able to keep up with the constant advancements of tech. I know you have some experience with teaching robotics to kids, and you had some thoughts about the fact that that is a great way to segue and to start learning about it. Talk to me a little bit about that.
Yeah, I've been a design judge for Vex Robotics a couple of times, and it's amazing what these like grade 5 kids do. The premise is that they have to design and build a robot from scratch, and they start with like simpler instructions, but some of the kids that have been doing it for a while build these like crazy robots. So they're learning about like project management, teamwork, engineering design principles, like incredible things that most students are just not even aware of. Like I'll give you some additional context there. I've done design judging for the university formula team that I was on. So every once in a while I design their engineering design, and these grade 5 kids produce way cooler ideas because they have, I don't know why, they're much better at like coming up with clear objectives. I think it's because the competition has pretty clear, like, this is how you win, this is how you lose. So these incredible like grade 5, 6, 7, 8 kids, they come up with very clear, like measurable objectives, and they know exactly what they want to do to build this robot. So if there's any teachers listening or even parents who want to get their kids into robots, like get them into Vex, get them into First Robotics. It's just an incredible learning experience for so many.
If there's a kid that's kind of looking at it and it seems scary and not for me, and maybe there's a branding issue there, how do we sell it better? How do we talk about these important skills and technologies in a way that's more approachable?
I think what you could do, like there are some teams that are girls specific, like it's only girls. So it makes it a much easier learning environment for girls who are maybe more shy. Doing stuff like that, just putting them into it is worth it, because even if they're scared, I would say if they're at all interested in solving problems, or if they have kind of a knack for math, or even if they don't, like if they hate math but they like building stuff, or they're creative and they like designing stuff, there's still a place for them. Because the best part about the Vex team is that they have, not only do they design a robot, but they have to like come up with an engineering notebook. So there's a huge organizational piece to that of like project management and like teamwork and communication skills. So it's a really cool team based learning.
Do you feel like schools have a responsibility to shape the narrative of STEM? Do you feel like they have a responsibility to both interest boys and girls in STEM, and also if there is an unleveled playing field to level it out? Is it their job, or is it not the school's job?
I mean, in a perfect world, yes, but I know that schools don't have unlimited budgets.
Right.
So doing robotics is not like the cheapest thing in the planet. So possibly schools can't do it, but I don't know. Let it large. I don't know how you solve that. If there is no budget, then obviously no. But if there's budget to bring in STEM learning, they absolutely should.
Well, I wonder if STEM is just a further down the line activity. I wonder if we can start at project-based learning, like even simple activities like building a bridge out of straws or out of sticks, right? I think everybody did the marshmallow and macaroni thing. Yeah. I have a feeling that maybe could start there, right? It's about the mindset of not just teacher professing and the student receiving instructions, going home, writing a test, but maybe it starts at the basis of, like you said, problem solving. Like, let's create a problem and explore together what tools do we have. And you said game design is an excellent analogy, but maybe it doesn't have to be video game design. Maybe it could be real life game design. Make a game from whatever resources we have. Could that be it? Or?
Well, that is one of the things we're doing with this game design workshop. We actually came up with this as a low-tech solution. So they're not actually creating the game. They're just going through the motion of like designing it and like going on Google and finding images that they would make into their like artistic mood board and coming up with like the storyline. So it's really the low tech before you get into the game development. Like I can see it, we're kind of creating a modular approach where they can like tie in like financial literacy, because there's a huge budgeting component to making games. And then like project management is a huge portion of game development. Yeah, for sure. Like the best way to probably do it is to, and that's what I'm trying to do, is to provide low tech solutions that are cost effective, that still promote teamwork and STEM learning.
So let's say there are parents listening to us and this sounds really awesome and they want to get their children started with this. And let's say they may not have the budget or the nearby access to these sort of activities and clubs. What can they do to start? What are the low-hanging fruits for parents and kids to start? Are there websites, resources, certain activities? Like, what's the first action they can take?
I don't even know if I know the answer to that. I mean, I can definitely give some suggestions. If you have a computer at home, like, and it's a decent computer, get your kid to download Unity, like the game development software. They have a ton of free training that can get you up and running, and they can start building games right away. Web development's another one. Like, there's a ton of free online courses with like so many free online courses. Even if you're doing like YouTube Academy or Coursera, Udacity, there's a ton of ones on web development. I think getting kids interested in coding early on is incredible. Getting kids into Scratch, I know they're doing that in the schools anyways. But if they don't have a computer, I would say what my brother used to do when he was a kid is he would tear like old phones and stuff apart and just like try to put them back together. So if you know of a good person who's got old electronics, you can also try to do that. And that's a pretty good way to get into electrical engineering, how stuff works. There's probably lots of different things.
Yeah, so I guess the last thing you said of getting into how stuff works is that curiosity, is the wonder. And it doesn't have to be high tech, right? It could be low tech. Yeah. How does this pen work? Even disassembling a pen and looking at the spring and maybe removing certain parts of the construction, having them assemble it, and it doesn't work. Or why doesn't it work? Why is this piece missing? Why is the spring missing? What does the spring do? And starting to piece together these components gets you in the mindset of understanding, what's that word? First principles. Right, first principles of here's how things are assembled and how things work, and without this you can't have that, and without, and in programming, game design, the same thing, right? It all at the end of the day comes down to code, but even below code you have assembly and you have compilers, and you get down to the bottom and it's switches and circuits, and below that is electromagnetism, and this physics. So it's this whole gamut. You can start wherever you want. There's no limit, or you must do robotics, so you must do programming. Right, it's just problem solving, curiosity. It can start anywhere.
I mean, even like a basic Arduino, like a Arduino knockoff on Amazon's like $20. Like right. Just, and it's got like 500 pieces in it. Like if someone wants to get their kids into how things work, just give them one of those. And then there's like 1,000 different setups you can do with the LED lights and the wires and the breadboard. So there's lots of different ways you can get kids interested. But I think giving them something physical is a good first start.
It's true. And I suppose if the option of social media, phone, and YouTube is removed, and they have this cool kit in front of them with a bunch of tools and electronics, it'll be fun to tinker with it at the end of the day, right? I feel like that's the experience for a lot of us that grew up before that, the age of phones and social media and internet. You had to do something, and you had toys. All right, might as well have fun. Let me disassemble this or assemble that, and just having that free form curiosity. And like you said, game design offers that in an incredible way. You have the science of it, the actual tools and components and equations, but you also have the free form exploration. You have the foundation, but you can explore and build to your desires and likings. Well, let me ask you before we wrap up is with all this work that you're doing, whether it's gamified learning, getting women into STEM, creating tools for teachers to solve some of their challenges, what impact are you looking to make? What are you doing this for?
Honestly, I've done a couple of career talks. I've seen that spark of excitement in a young woman's eyes that she had. I'll give you a prime example. We've done a local career talk in Toronto, and we were talking to this young girl. She was super passionate about a couple of different things. She wanted to change the world, and she was dead set on doing social work. And then we brought up a couple of ways that engineers were solving the exact problems that she was trying to solve. And this like light bulb just went off in her head. Like, oh my God, I've been trying to go down a path because she loved math. She loved science. Like she's clearly set up to be a great engineer. So it's really that feeling of like seeing that in someone else is what I'm living for, because I mean, I can't go back in time and change any of my path. And I'm really like, I love what I'm doing every day. It's just like, I get to do coding. I get to do project management. I have a great team. I get to do the business side of things. So it's really just like striving for that next light bulb that I'm turning on.
Amazing. I love it. Where can people find you online?
Yeah, for now, people, if they want to reach me, they can find me on LinkedIn. Our name is Mallory Maynard. We're going to have a site up and running in hopefully a month or so. We haven't come up, it's kind of funny, I can't give you a name because we haven't come up with a name yet. So when we do, they can find me there.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure having you on our talk, and hopefully we'll talk again at some point.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Amazing. Appreciate it.